Ever wondered what it really takes to power a global giant like Netflix? Well, today, we're pulling back the curtain and going deep inside their unique and, honestly, pretty misunderstood engineering culture. Let's dive right in.
So to get a sense of the scale we're dealing with here, just look at this number, 1 trillion. That is the number of data points or events that Netflix captures every single day. We're talking about every click, every pause, every single interaction you have. All of it feeds this massive engine that helps them decide everything from which shows to make next to exactly how your homepage should look.
Now, how about this number? 65 million. That was the unbelievable number of concurrent streams for one single live event, the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight. I mean, that's a world record that pushed their entire system to its absolute breaking point.
Which, brings us to the big question, right? How on earth do you build an engineering culture that can not only handle this kind of insane scale, but actually thrive on it? Well, the answer is a really unique mix of tech, philosophy, and of course, people.
First off, we've got to understand that the engineering challenge at Netflix goes way, way beyond just hitting the play button. They've built this incredibly complex end-to-end ecosystem that manages everything from the moment an idea is pitched all the way to your screen.
And they have a name for it internally, pitch to play. Think about what that really means. From the second a show gets the green light, tech is driving everything. Data science is helping decide what to produce, custom software is managing the actual production, and then these complex pipelines handle all the promotion, the recommendations, and finally getting it delivered to you. It's the entire life cycle, and they built it all themselves.
And what's so wild is that Netflix builds its own tools to solve its own unique problems. The best example of this is OpenConnect. That's their own global content delivery network. The simplest way to think about it is like a network of thousands of mini Netflix servers tucked away all over the globe. So the show you want to watch is already physically super close to you. That's what gives you that instant, high-quality stream, and it's a huge strategic advantage, especially for things like live events and gaming.
And that, right there, brings us to the ultimate test for their culture, launching live events. This wasn't just some new feature, no. This was a massive shift that will put every single one of their principles to the test. And just look at how fast they moved. It's incredible. In just 18 months, they went from their very first live special, had a very public failure with the Love is Blind reunion, and then turned around to shatter records with the Tyson fight. And then, get this, just 5 weeks after that, they were flawlessly streaming high-stakes NFL games. Talk about an insane sprint.
This quote from Netflix's CTO Elizabeth Stone just perfectly captures the human side of it all. The Tyson fight wasn't just about code and servers, it was about raw nerves, incredible stress, and solving problems in real time on a global stage.
And you can forget about some fancy NASA-style mission control room. The reality was way more scrappy. It was a makeshift room with a bunch of laptops and screens thrown together. You had engineers literally jumping into Google Meet rooms to fix issues on the fly as the viewer count just kept climbing and climbing past anything they had ever imagined. It was chaotic, intense, and it was all driven by the people on the ground.
But this is the part that really says everything about their culture. The next morning, the CTO didn't have to call some big emergency postmortem. Nope. She woke up to find that the teams had already written detailed memos about what went wrong, what they learned, and exactly how they were going to improve for the NFL games coming up. I mean, that's just radical ownership.
So how do you even build that kind of ownership? Well, it all comes down to their core philosophy, freedom and responsibility. Let's break down what that actually looks like day to day.
So instead of some architect at the top handing down orders, innovation comes from the engineers themselves. And instead of these rigid, bureaucratic approval processes, you have autonomy and local judgment. Teams literally organize themselves and build their own roadmaps. And that freedom is what lets them move so incredibly fast. But of course, that autonomy doesn't mean it's the Wild West, especially when the stakes are as high as a live event. To manage all that risk, they brought in some lightweight guardrails, like a tiering system for their services. You can think of it like this. Tier 0 services are the ones that absolutely positively cannot fail during a live stream. So yeah, they have a higher bar for testing, but it's still a guideline, not some rigid rule. And that preserves that crucial sense of ownership.
Now, this whole freedom and responsibility thing, it only works if you have the right people. And that brings us to one of the most famous and controversial parts of their culture. They have no formal performance reviews. So what in the world do they do instead? It's really a system built on 3 key pillars. First, candid, continuous feedback is just the daily norm. It's not some big seasonal event. Second, they do have an annual 360 process, but, and this is key, it's for developmental feedback directly between colleagues, not for a manager's evaluation. And finally, pay is tied to your market value and your individual impact, and that's only talked about once a year to keep conversations about money separate from conversations about growth.
The glue that holds all of this together is the famous keeper test. It's a really simple but powerful question that managers are always asking themselves. If this person told me they were leaving for another job, would I fight like hell to keep them? It forces managers to be brutally honest about their teams, and it ensures that every single person is someone their colleagues are genuinely thrilled to work with. It's how they maintain that crazy high talent bar.
So, does this whole system, which sounds pretty intense, actually work? Well, the data says a resounding yes. According to analysis from SignalFire, despite that high bar, Netflix has one of the absolute best talent retention rates among top tech companies. It turns out that top performers really do thrive in an environment built on freedom, responsibility, and excellence.
Okay, so we've looked at the how and the who, but what's the end result of this whole unique cultural system? Well, it's an engine that just churns out industry-leading innovation.
And here's a result that might actually surprise you. Netflix is a beast in the open source world. It's estimated that 1 out of every 5 of their engineers contributes to open source projects. Their work on video encoding, for example, has won them 9 technical Emmy Awards and led to a 60% drop in the bandwidth they need. So by innovating out in the open, they help lift the whole industry up, which in turn helps them too.
So, if you had to boil this entire complex culture down to just one essential trait, what would it be? Well, according to their CTO, it's simple. Curiosity, curiosity, curiosity. That relentless drive to constantly ask questions, to challenge assumptions, that's the real fuel for Netflix's engineering machine. And it kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? What problems could your own team solve with just a little more freedom and a whole lot more curiosity?